Hello, and welcome to the Larkspur Dance and Choreography Podcast. This is Melanie Daly. Today I'm joined by my good friend and treasured member of our little collective, Kayla Kernel. Kayla has been performing basically since she could walk. She's a talented dancer, awesome choreographer, expert routine perfecter, and one of the best judges I've ever had the pleasure of sitting next to and learning from. But that's a whole other podcast. She's here today to talk about the other role in her life, and for her it's more than a job, it's actually a vocation. She has a degree in sociology and psychology, but found herself wanting to help others in a way that is real, hands-on, and meaningful. She studied and obtained licenses in aesthetics and makeup artistry, and to enhance her skills even more, she also enrolled in some classes at the Kansas City Art Institute because nobody knows about color and artistry quite like those people. She worked and studied her way to become a senior artist at the #1 specialty beauty retailer in the world, and I've seen time and time again how her helpful and down-to-earth advice can make people feel better. And when people feel better, they do better, and that positivity just spreads. One of her greatest feats, in my opinion, well, I am the oldest member of Larkspur by about 15 years, which is a huge gap by any standards. But if you look at our group photos, she has worked her magic on my face and makes me blend right in. And for that, I will be forever impressed, not to mention grateful. Today, we're diving into the use of makeup in the dance team world. We're going to talk about how it can enhance your routine, the difference between game day looks versus competition, and she also offers the most invaluable tips for those pesky false eyelashes that give us all fits. The last part of the podcast is dedicated to the coaches, instructors, or any of the fully adult humans that work with dancers. She gives us a scoop on anti-aging and breaks down what we should be doing and explains away all the confusion that we experience when we're bombarded by these ingredients we can't even pronounce. Stay tuned, and I guarantee you will pick up a useful tip or 2 or 20 from our resident makeup artist and skincare expert, Kayla Kernel. Hey, Kayla.
Hello, how's it going?
It's great. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am too. I'm excited to talk about this because this is actually a topic that a lot of coaches and especially a lot of dancers get really, really excited about, and that's performance makeup as a dance team, basically things that they can do to enhance. It actually enhances the performance whenever there's a cohesive look. And it enhances sometimes the style of the routine. Mm-hmm. If they've picked a certain theme and their whole entire look is part of that theme, it really enhances it. So I'm excited to talk with you about performance makeup. First thing, let's talk about how this has changed over the years. Like when you were on a dance team, I know certainly whenever I was on a dance team years and years ago, it just wasn't as big of a deal. You, though, grew up performing false eyelashes, all that stuff. It was more of a big deal. But back then, was it as big of a deal as it is now?
I definitely think back, especially when I was in high school, once upon a time, there was this idea that stage makeup was a thing.
Yeah.
And I remember we used to pull out our eyeliner to the temples and we would do black and white and so much blush that you would look like a clown.
Yeah.
And the brightest burgundy lipstick. For some reason, burgundy was a thing back then.
What was your school color too? Kind of.
Yeah. But even in college, I don't know. It was burgundy. We just liked burgundy. But yeah, there was this idea that stage makeup and we needed to do something really crazy for people to see our faces. But then you see us up close. Well, to be honest, up close and far away, it didn't really look that great.
Right.
Now, yeah.
Did you think now it does look good up close? I mean, because when I'm judging something, it looks great from far away. But then if I come down the bleachers and I'm amongst the dancers,
right.
I'm like, whoa, wow.
I definitely think that there's a lot more knowledge out there now. Good information and bad information, which is where it can go wrong. But I think the difference is now is that the makeup needs to be pretty. Whether if it's stage makeup, and it's from far away or up close, it needs to look pretty. You can't look crazy up close because as a dancer, especially performing at games or even in a competition setting, people are going to see you up close and there's going to be pictures. So I would say that's the difference now is that there's a lot more information out there. People are getting more informed and there's not as much the idea that you need to
look like a clown.
Yeah,
Or it needs to be like the rock group Kiss or...
Right.
I'm just trying to think of examples where... Because I've seen a lot of performance makeup that is very nice and tasteful. But we used to... What you're saying is in the past, we used to like take it a step further over into not just dramatic, but...
Like theater
dramatically
makeup.
wrong.
Right.
Dramatically bad.
Well, we just didn't have the information that we have out now. There wasn't
The
YouTube,
techniques,
and there wasn't places like Sephora or Ulta's where you could go learn and play. So.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about the differences between a game day look, performing at your school, or at a function where you're representing your school, and a competition look. Yeah. Like if you are performing a theme routine like Thriller or something about zombies or whatever at your school, that's great. I don't think that the school crowd can't handle that. They would understand that. They would get it. They'd probably love it. But some of the things that you see at competition, if you were to bust that out at a Tuesday night varsity basketball game or whatever, might scare the parents. Yeah, they might be like, what is going on with that? What club is that? So talk about that. What's like a good game day look versus competition?
Well, I think, kind of going back to what I said earlier is that it still needs to be pretty close up. The biggest points of difference is your game day look is going to be focused more on working in thin layers, making it sweat proof, making sure that it's going to last with humidity and whatnot. And with competition looks, there can be, as you mentioned before, there can be a theme with it. So it has to be part of the performance. So, you have to take into consideration what you're wearing. With each look, there needs to be a clear focus on the look. So you don't want to do like bold eye, bold cheek, bold lip. You can still have all those components present, but there needs to be a clear focus, because when you have all of them on the face, a bold eye, a bold cheek, a bold lip, a bold brow, that's when you look crazy.
That's when we dip a toe over into the clown world.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So just pick whichever one, maybe as a team, because you don't want Sally over there with the bold lip and somebody over there with the bold eye. Who usually sets the tone for that? Is that something as a team that they decide, or like when you make a team, that should be, okay, here's our look, here's for the game, this is what we do, so that then the newbies know what to do, and it's that cohesive.
Well, I mean, I know I've done classes for dance teams or even college dance teams to help them, give them the tools that they need, and then they can figure out how to work for them.
Okay.
Because I do think that there is something to knowing, giving you almost like the equation of this is what you need, this is XYZ, but then you need to figure out how it works for you.
Give them the parts, the pieces, the component. Okay. So game day,
I also would say too, just to add on to that, with competition looks, the other thing you have to take into consideration is lighting, which you don't have to do that quite as much with game day because you're going to be in natural lighting. So a tip that I would offer is have your girls do their makeup and take a picture with a flash. And then where things get washed out, which is usually the cheek, but where things get washed out, that's where they need to add a little bit more. Still keep it blended. It's probably going to be more than what they would wear in their everyday, but it's really helpful.
That is a great tip. So like maybe they'll have a dress rehearsal or something like that. They could take a picture with a flash because that's going to be the lighting normally.
That's going to wash everything out.
And then you can see where you need to touch up. And the cheeks is usually what they miss. Okay, so for a game day look, what would you suggest they do? I mean, what should be the components of everybody's game day look? Because, I mean, we all have mostly the same problems and the same goals, too, for how we want our teams to look.
I mean, again, I would say with game day looks, the key is to make sure that your team they prep their skin. So meaning that start with clean skin, start with the moisturizer, because that's really what's going to set the canvas and make it so the makeup just doesn't slide off or soak into the skin.
Okay.
Because nothing's worse than you might start out looking good, but by, fourth quarter... not looking so great. Yeah. So definitely skin prep is going to be huge. And it doesn't mean you need to do a million things, but just starting with clean skin and a fresh moisturizer.
Okay.
With your foundation, it is helpful to get a long wear foundation, something that specifically says long wear.
Good point. Because I think a lot of people don't. They just say, well, that's what I've always worn. Mm-hmm. But you need to, and you're very good about that. Like anytime we've done different things, you just know that what tools to use, especially with foundation. There's full coverage. Mm-hmm. There's stuff that looks good when you're getting photos taken. Mm-hmm. There's stuff that looks good if you're going to be underwater. we know that. But anyway, so go ahead. Moisturizer, prep the skin.
Yeah. Long wear foundation. So a long wear foundation, how to tell if it is, it's either it'll say long wear or it's going to say something like 12-hour, 15-hour wear, 24-hour wear and whatnot.
Okay.
But that's definitely going to be important because it does have ingredients in it that hold up better under stress, I guess.
Right. Sweating. They're going to be sweating. There's going to be weird lights. Mm-hmm. And they might be hot too because football starts in August now. Yeah.
Definitely need some sort of eye. You can easily get some sort of neutral smoky palette, but some sort of eye. I personally am partial to false lashes. They're not for everybody. You might not need them, but they do make a big difference.
Some teams will not do that for game day, but mascara and eyeshadow is, but for competitions now,
you need it.
Well, everybody's doing it unless it's some sort of weird look. And I'm talking about teams that are off the charts, like enrollment wise and talent wise, like big teams. And then also we're seeing small teams that they can really, that's almost sort of a way that they, like us too, we do this too, we can do this. And it's fun for them. And it kind of elevates the whole thing for them.
Yeah, I totally noticed. I had noticed the makeup before the team even dances. I'm like, oh, this team has good makeup. Like it's always like, okay, well, even if they're just okay, their makeup looks good. And that,
did you note that team? So that when Kayla is judging,
that needs to be on the score sheet.
Okay, so definitely they need to pay attention to the eye, or else it's going to disappear. So, neutral smoky is good. What about liner? Do they need to get crazy with a little cat eye? Or?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is actually came up whenever I did a dance team class for a college dance team, and they asked about winged liner. I think decide what's best for your team.
Right.
I don't recommend doing a really strong wing for a couple of reasons. One, because it's hard.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for everybody. And two, it's a very, very trendy look right now. With dance team pictures, I mean, it's sort of weird to compare, but they're kind of like wedding pictures. They're going to be around forever. I know I still have pictures of me in college.
I know you do.
My glory days when I didn't fill in my eyebrows. But you do want the makeup to be pretty and you want it to be timeless. So I personally don't recommend a really strong wing.
Right.
But again, decide what's best for your team. So liner, it depends on the team and the person.
They also need to fill in those brows.
The brow, girl. Yeah.
And you don't have to like go crazy. I'm like all of us have that crazy aunt that like draws them all.
Yeah. No,
and you know what? That might even be you. You might be the crazy aunt. But you taught me that actually, because I was not a big brow filler inner before you came into my world, and it I don't know. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, well,
and I don't go crazy with my brows.
Yeah. I mean, I just had mentioned when I look at pictures of me in college when I wasn't a makeup artist and I didn't have places or any resources to learn how to do my makeup. That's the first thing I noticed is that I didn't really know how to fill in my brows, and it doesn't even look like me. It drives me crazy.
And there's all kinds of options out there too. You can still use the pencil if you have a certain kind of brow, but they also have those kits where it's almost like an eyeshadow, and you can brush it on. That's what my daughter has to use because her brows are kind of like yours. They grow all over the place, whereas mine, they're a little bit more, I guess, predictable, and I can still get away with the pencil. Okay, so that covers the eyes pretty much. And then cheek
and lip.
Cheek is big.
Yeah, so cheek, the only thing that I would say that's a must-have for the cheek is blush. And then if your girls want to add a contour or bronzer or highlight, those are all just icing on the cake, and they're not going to hurt anything. But I would say that blush is going to have the most impact on the look because you can add shape, you can add life back in, you can add color to help tie the eye and the lip together.
Right. Okay.
And then with your lip, everyone's going to be different with lip. I think that mauve or berries tend to be most flattering with team colors and with people's skin tones.
Because they look natural. Those colors look more natural than, I think a trend, or maybe it's not trend, maybe it's something that their team has just always done, like they'll pick red because that's one of their school colors. Fine. I wonder though if they are wearing red, if they have tried to switch it up with something a little bit more natural, if they might find, oh my gosh, I like this better.
Yeah.
Especially if it's just game day and you're wearing your school colors, a uniform, and you would look more like a normal person going to dinner and shopping or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
I guess
As opposed to kind of like that clowny,
that over the top competition look that really only we get. You know what I mean? Only those of us in that world.
Yeah.
You don't normally like run your errands in your competition look.
I mean, depends on the day.
I guess that might be a good sort of a good barometer to use. Like, okay, are we crossing, like, I guess game day look, we could rock this, afterwards when we go and, I don't know, whatever kids are, the after game activity or whatever. So they could rock that look in public. Totally. All right. So that's game day. What about for competition? Let's say that it's not, we're not doing zombies. We're not, aliens or whatever. We're going out there and we're doing a standard jazz, lyrical, pom, anything different that would elevate the game day look to competition.
I mean, again, the same components need to be present, but it's probably just going to have to be a little bit more because those lights can be really harsh. So again, that's where I would just go back and your girls will just have to practice and see, and doing that selfie trick with the flash, or even doing team pictures, with the flash, and seeing what gets washed out and what doesn't. But
the base would be the same.
The base would be the same because you still want it to be long wear.
More of the eyes and more of on the cheeks, and maybe not lip, but just kind of elevate it with more product.
Elevate with more, and then, you could possibly add a little bit more contrast too, maybe with the lip, if you do a really natural kind of mauve color for your game day, but, if it's going to be a performance where you're going to be under those lights, you might be able to add a little bit more contrast there.
Okay.
Again, it's just, lighting's very, very tricky. So you just want to make sure they don't look washed out.
Another thing I will say from a judge's point of view, a lot of times when people kind of add stuff like a glitter or a rhinestone, type thing on their face. First of all, I think the gluing on of gems and stuff, I think that's illegal with National Federation of High Schools.
Oh, I didn't know
that. I don't think, I think because they're afraid that they'll fall off.
Yeah.
And if you've got a big old fake, like a big old rhinestone on the floor, somebody could fall on that. So I think that's the thinking behind it. But, I've seen teams, though, use like glittery enhancements on their face and also their hair and that kind of thing. I think they have to keep in mind that a lot of times in a gym, you don't notice.
Yeah.
That's really,
exactly what I was going to say.
It's not enhancing. It's not elevating. It's probably just more of a pain.
Yeah. Make sure everyone brought their glitter.
Right. Oh, she forgot her glitter, demerit for you. And really, if they just cover the basics and make sure that we can see the features, and also, make sure that it does fit the theme. Like, I would be confused if the theme was aliens and they did not paint their faces green or whatever. You know what I mean? So don't be afraid to add enhancements if it's gonna help convey your theme. But if it's just a good old standard lyrical jazz pom,
your choreo and everything, and your girls and the costumes, and it'll speak for itself,
right?
Makeup's just sort of icing on the cake, and it is part of the look. But I agree with you. It's not going to make or break your routine.
Right. No amount of glitter or sequins or lipstick is going to fix synchronization if it's not.
I wish it would, but
yeah. Wouldn't that be great? Yes. Okay. So does extensive makeup use, like sometimes dancers will have like 4 performances in a week. And the makeup is heavier for sure than the look that they're rocking during the day. So all of this makeup use, does that require extra skincare? Well, first of all, makeup is formulated so that it's not necessarily hard on the skin. So I don't want people thinking, this is bad for me, what I'm doing to my complexion by putting on this full coverage, long wear foundation. That's not true.
Yeah. No, okay. My normal foundation is a full coverage foundation that I usually wear. No, I wouldn't say that it requires necessarily extra steps. Your basic skincare routine is going to be to cleanse and moisturize AM and PM and exfoliate 2 to 3 times a week. And that's your basic. I would say the difference if you are wearing a lot of makeup is you have to have something to take it off.
That's what I was going to say
generally that's going to be for everybody, but you need something to take it off.
When I wear full coverage, it's a multi-step process to take it off. And I'm not, alien number 3 in a routine,
No.
So removal is going to be key for these dancers.
So there's this concept called double cleanse, and it's nothing new, but the double cleanse means that you cleanse first to remove your makeup and you cleanse second for your skin. So that's where we were kind of talking about earlier. You're cleansing oils, you're cleansing balms, micellar waters, makeup wipes. Difference between all of those, really any of them at the end of the day will get the job done.
Right.
Cleansing oils, easy to remember, tend to be better for oily skin because oil attracts oil.
Oh, and it gets the oil off the face too. So you got to remove it with something. If you have oily skin, you would recommend
cleansing oil,
which that's not a new concept. Probably people in France have been using it forever.
Yeah, France, Korea, they're way ahead of us.
They are.
Yeah.
Okay, but that I think, and we were going to talk about that later, but let's talk about that now. I think people, maybe especially teenagers who are fighting acne, are like,
oil
on my skin. Like, seriously, it's okay to do that now.
I agree.
Or it's always been okay to do that.
Yeah, people have looked at me like I'm crazy, but no, it's not like mineral oil or the oil that you put in your car, or it's a beauty oil.
I personally use Quaker State on my face. Lies. No, I do not.
But it's something that's meant to break down makeup and meant to come off. And cleansing oils are honestly the most gentle thing too, because you don't have to scrub. You just I think it's kind of relaxing to take off my makeup at night because it just comes right off.
That cleansing oil does work for sure, and
oil.
I think it works better than some of the other things. You will see wipes. There are makeup wipes now too that gets rid of the makeup, but probably not as well as the oil. The oil does kind of make a mess.
Yeah.
So you got to be prepared to wipe it off.
Yeah. Well, you do it on dry skin. It breaks everything down. And then balms are the same way. You do them on dry skin. It breaks everything down. Just since balms don't attract oil as much. They do tend to be a little bit better for dry skin. But again, you could use either one.
Right.
I use both.
I think try it. Don't be afraid to try oils, balms, wipes, and then tell me about this micellar water.
We'll just circle back to wipes.
Okay.
Wipes are good. I wouldn't say make them your first choice, just because wipes can be really harsh on the skin. Now, I mean, I know when I'm in a pinch or if I'm tired, I will use a makeup wipe.
Yeah, I do
it's
too.
not gonna hurt anything.
Moisturize, call it good.
Right. It's not gonna hurt anything, but it is, daily use every single day, especially if you're wearing a lot of makeup. It is really, really harsh on your skin because you do have to do a little bit more scrubbing.
Gotcha.
So I would say, wipes, keep them around so you have them, especially before you go to the gym with your girls working out or going to practice and whatnot. So your last resort, and then micellar water. Micellar waters are really good for taking off a little bit of makeup. They're not great at just being your full removal. If you do them on a full coverage foundation, they don't break down everything quite as much. But it is something that will, if you just have on a light tinted moisturizer or a bit of something, it'll help take it off.
I found that for micellar water, what I found a great use for that, like I used some this morning. Kayla's staring at me with no makeup on my face.
Same.
I feel like you don't have any makeup on?
A little bit of tinted eye.
Tinted, really? But did you use tinted moisturizer too? Oh, your skin's looking so good.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, it's all my skincare.
Yes. But instead of cleansing in the morning, if I don't have, if it's not a makeup situation, I'll just use that micellar water.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's less harsh than a wipe. Why would I use a wipe whenever I'm not wiping anything off?
No, that's another great use for it. And it's easy because you don't have to rinse it off.
Yes, I know. It's fantastic. Instead of getting out the cleanser and, on a already somewhat clean face. You know who Selma Hayek is, right? I saw her on some talk show. She doesn't wash her face in the morning.
She uses toner.
Does
she said?
No, she just says, why would you get rid of all that rejuvenating oil through the night?
I disagree.
It's gross.
Yeah.
But I mean...
I mean, obviously she's beautiful.
Right.
She's perfect.
And that works for her.
No, but just think of it as like when you brush your teeth at night.
Yes.
When you wake up in the morning, like you still kind of need to brush your teeth. Your skin's the same way. There's stuff on it in the morning. So micellar water works really great. Or if you have a toner, if you want to run that over the skin, just a little something.
Not astringent. That's different, isn't it, than toner?
Yeah. Astringent tends to be more for like acne or oily skin.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Okay. So, if they're going to be wearing all this makeup, bottom line, they got to remove it. And then, any other extra skincare tips beyond that? It really none. Just cleanse, remove, cleanse, moisturize.
Yeah.
Moisturize. Okay. And then, okay, so let's talk about cost. Cost is a major prohibitor for a lot of dancers, and let me tell you why. It's they have to buy shoes, they have to buy palms.
Oh, absolutely, I've been there.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so there are ways, though. You don't want to be the coach that, like, has them, spend all this money for camp and uniforms. It is pricey.
Yeah.
And then say, okay, now we're going to go to MAC and we're going to get the team look.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I think that it can be achieved in other ways.
Yeah. I think that, like the dance world right now, the makeup world is also extremely saturated right now with lots of brands, which is great because there's so many options.
Choices.
There's so many more options than even what I had when I was dancing in college and dancing professionally. So there's so many budget options out there, so many drugstore options that are just as good as some high-end stuff. I would say where to invest your money is going to be your skincare and your foundation.
Okay.
You want to make the thing about buying a drugstore foundation, you can't match it. If your foundation doesn't match, that's when
you get that line on your
work.
Right. Okay. So you're suggesting that the team look can be CoverGirl eyeshadow,
absolutely,
or whatever, or just or it can be any sort of eyeshadow as long as it's the same color. But each girl individually, if they're going to be spending some money, they need to get a foundation that's going to be good, that they can then match,
and that's suited for their skin
have
type.
somebody match it in the store, correct? Now, I will say this: you can return drugstore makeup. Did you know that? You can return Sephora and Ulta and all that stuff. If you get home and you're like, okay, this is not right.
Well, and that's actually the thing about buying it from somewhere high end is that you absolutely can return it. I don't know if drugstore you always can.
In Walmart you can, and
Really?
CVS you can.
Well,
and I think Walgreens as well.
Yeah.
And you just say this didn't match.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you want to make 6 trips to see if it matches? Or?
One of those, right? No, you don't.
Yeah.
But if you're on a budget, you will
absolutely.
do that. One of those retailers that I mentioned, I don't know. I didn't know that I should have researched this. It might be exchange. Like this lipstick was awful on me. Well, go get you a different color type thing. But yeah, you're right. It's going to be a ton of trips.
Yeah.
To and
well,
from.
I mean, like I said, you can figure out what's best for you and your team, but I will say the foundation, knowing, having something that is for your specific skin type and that that matches and that is specifically formulated to be long wear, it is worth the investment. So, in my opinion.
Right. Okay, so if you're going to be spending some money, spend it on your foundation. Everything else, skincare. Oh, the cleansers and the moisturizers and that kind of thing. And get a foundation that matches for sure. So take extra care in those steps. But then anything else, I guess, is just try it. And if it are drugstore products not as long lasting? Like eyeshadows, liners, mascara.
Yeah, it's really hard to say because
might depend on the person.
Yeah, it's sort of like if you were you were like, is the over-the-counter, this medication better than the one that I got from my doctor?
Like, generics of prescriptions.
That's probably a better way to put it, yeah.
Yeah, because are over-the-counter better than prescriptions? No, probably not.
Probably, yeah. That's, like I said, that's a better way to put it. So like if generic is better than the name brand Tylenol, it's hard to say. Everyone has their favorites. I have my favorites of things that I'll buy. I like high-end mascara. Mm-hmm. Do people need to buy $26 mascara? Absolutely not, but that's what I like. So I think
it works for you.
Yeah, it works for me.
But then somebody else, it might not work as
they might love their $7 L'Oreal, and that's great too.
Right.
So
experiment, find what you like. And another good thing about the higher end makeup stores is there are people there to help you, and you can try before you buy, for sure. Mm-hmm. So you can try that mascara. Or also, too, I think what we have available to us, too, is we can lean on these people that work there, become their buddies and ask them. And they can say, we get a lot of compliments on this, or, they can steer you in the right direction. Yeah. I have oily skin, my mascara always runs. What should I do? Type thing. And they can lead them down the right path. And always remember, save your receipt. Right?
Well, if you shop at Sephora, they keep it on file, just FYI.
Oh, okay, just FYI. Okay, so what would you say to the hesitant makeup wearer? There are... Like my daughter included, there are some girls, like whenever I was allowed to start wearing makeup, there was not a single piece of makeup in my house that was safe for me.
I was the same way.
Oh, so fun, Yeah. And I loved it, and I wore a lot of it. Mm-hmm. Probably looked ridiculous, but that was me. My daughter wears it only under moments of duress, and she's a senior in high school, and only whenever I insist, and there are times that she's like, I suppose you're gonna have me wear makeup for this, fine, type thing. What would you say to somebody like her that has made the dance team that this is not their thing?
So someone who's made a dance team that isn't a makeup wearer, I would say you're on the dance team and you got to wear it. It's pretty black and white.
Right.
You just have to. And ways to help, practice and play. Oh. It's just like any other sport. You need to sit down, you need to practice, you need to play, you need to make mistakes, you need to see what looks bad on you, you need to see what you like on you. But just take 30 minutes, an hour out of your day and just sit down and play. The other thing I would say, too, and if you wanted to go a step further, you can always hire a makeup artist to come and help teach you and come up with the look for you that give them the steps
and again,
to get there.
Go into one of these stores where the makeup artist is there and you can tell them what the team look is going to be, and they will know exactly what you're talking about and say this, and this, and help you out. Another thing I would suggest, just because I loved playing with makeup doesn't mean that I was good at it. Get a buddy, and somebody that loves it. Like our friend, Natalie loves it. Not a professional makeup artist, but she's very talented and knows, you know what I mean? And she helped me out a lot. And sometimes, and it was a joy for her to do this. She found it fun. Whereas I'm like, oh, I don't have time. You know what I mean? Yeah. And just here, would you just do this? And she would do it for me. And sometimes my hair. Yeah. So there's going to be somebody else on that team that this is going to be their passion. Yeah. And they will help out the ones that are a little hesitant. Another thing I would tell the people that are hesitant, they might be hesitant because it's taking them forever. And they're making mistakes and they have to, pull out the Q-tip to fix the, this, that, and the other. It does get faster. And it gets easier.
Absolutely.
And it's just going to get better over and over and over again. Any quick tips about applying false eyelashes?
Get a good glue. Let the glue get tacky. Make sure you trim it to fit your eye and curl the lash. Apply mascara first and then come in from above, not straight on from your eye.
I know one thing you taught me, because I'm impatient and I want to slather on the glue and I want to put it on my lid. Mm-hmm. And you said, wait.
Gotta wait.
Patience.
Or else it'll just slide off.
Yeah. So wait for it to get tacky. Apply mascara to your natural lash first.
Mm-hmm. Because it gives us a shelf to sit on, so it doesn't come down.
Okay.
So it helps out a lot.
That's a good tip. Do you do lashes first before eyeshadow? Mm-mm. Don't you? No.
Do it after.
You do it after.
Mm-hmm. You should always do it after because, one, if you're doing eyeshadow, you're probably going to get a little bit of fallout on that lash, and then it kind of looks like it snowed on it. Oh. And two, it's really hard when you have, that big lash there, it's kind of hard to blend and to get in there.
And you even do, a lot of times you'll do liner after. Do you? Okay.
It's helpful to do it before and after.
Gotcha.
That way it helps hide the lash band.
Okay. And you will line a lot of times with eyeshadow as well. Mm-hmm. So it's not just that liquid liner on the top. It's also some darker eyeshadow towards the lashes too. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep, that works too.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So hair. Let's talk just real quick about hair. Hair up, hair down. What do you like on a team?
I mean, game day down.
Yes.
Always.
Glamour.
I just think that's how it should be. And then for competition, out of the way and not distracting to the content of the routine. That's what I think.
Okay. I think that's very smart because so many times it's all about synchronization and being together for dance team. Mm-hmm. And whenever you're watching hair, and like a big old hair flip, it's just awesome on a game day. Mm-hmm. And it's cool. You're there at your school, and a lot of times they'll wear their hair down, maybe with a bow or something in it that's school colors. But if you're competing and somebody has longer hair and you go and do a hair flip, the girl with the short hair was on 6, and then the one with the longer hair is still going on 7.
Well, and if you think about it too, on game day, the concern, I mean, the crowd, obviously you want to be in sync and you want to look good, but the crowd just wants to see girls flip their hair and shake their palms, girls
happy,
and boys.
Support the team.
Yeah. So, I don't want to say synchronization isn't as important, but
it's not.
It's not
the crowd does not have score sheets.
Right.
That's right. They just want to be entertained and see other students support and that kind of thing. But I totally agree about competition. I remember telling one team, just a suggestion, but there was only one girl on the team that had bangs. And everybody else was in a bun.
Yeah.
And I said, if she's willing to bobby pin those back, I think that it would elevate your synchronization, because what I'm doing is I'm watching her cute little bangs. They were just pressured. They were just bouncing, and nobody else is,
well, that's an easy fix too.
It's such an easy fix. Yeah. I'm not asking her to cut them all the way off. I'm not asking her to grow them out.
Or everyone get bangs.
Right. Everybody. That's right. That's our team look. Okay. So let's talk about just like general skincare and makeup questions, because I'm around you a lot, and anytime I am around you, you always get pimped out for info. Have you ever noticed that? People find out what you do, and then all of a sudden, we're talking about normal stuff, and then they'll get Kayla by herself, and they'll be like, okay, so I have this thing that I'm trying to cover.
Or like, do you hear about this new product?
Right. Well, what are your thoughts on this? And it's hilarious. It's almost like they treat it like it's a secret. And part of me is just like, no, I mean, the rest of us could have talked about that too. It's okay. It's all right. But yeah, they'll pull you aside and they'll ask you. So people want to know this because everybody wants to take care of their skin. A good number of dance team coaches are female. Mm-hmm. And we all have sort of the same concerns too about aging and skincare. So I'm going to pimp you out right now for this info.
All right.
Okay. What should be the general regimen for everyone, no matter the skin type? And I think you covered it earlier with dancers, but let's go over it again.
Yeah.
So this is for everybody. Every human being should be doing what?
Cleanse and moisturize AM and PM, and exfoliate 2 to 3 times a week. That's your bare minimum.
Okay. I was going to ask about that. How often? And okay, so when you say exfoliate, like I have a little brush thingy, but I don't do it every day.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
I did notice, like the first time I used, they have sort of a major exfoliator attachment that comes with it. Mm-hmm. First time I used it, I got a couple little pimples. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, is that my face kind of reacting to this torture I just put it through, or what? Okay, is that what it is? It's trying to.
I think that it's interesting because I work with a lot of clients, and most people use a physical exfoliator and not a chemical exfoliator. And so the difference is physical exfoliators are the ones with the beads in them, and they aren't great for your skin.
It's like beating up your skin with some sandpaper.
It is. And it almost is too much of a good thing when you're like, yeah, I'm going to get all my dead skin off. And it can be a little satisfying whenever you are giving it that nice
so
scrub.
Clean, and then and then I feel like it accepts the product better. The moisturizer, anti-ager, or whatever I'm slathering. My Quaker State.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
So physical ones really aren't great.
Okay.
They really aren't. You have to be really careful. And if you are going to use something physical, you need another exfoliator. The better one to do is a chemical exfoliant. And that sounds scary when people hear chemical.
Like you're putting acid on your face.
But that's going to be something with a glycolic or a lactic or a salicylic, depending on your skin type and your concern. But that's what's actually going to get results. And that's what's actually going to exfoliate more on a cellular level. And
as opposed to my brush.
Yes.
My rotating brush thingy.
Yeah. That more so just gives you a light massage. And I use my brush too a couple times a week. It just kind of gives a light massage. It does help the absorption of the products
really
after it.
But I'm not really exfoliating with that thing. I'm not.
I mean, a little bit, but not really.
But not if I would get a product that has what?
A chemical exfoliant. So either the most common ones used are lactic, glycolic, and salicylic.
And do they sell these things by themselves, or is there some sort of moisturizer that has these in them?
There's everything.
Everything.
Anything that you can think of that maybe you're like, oh, I wonder if they make this. I'm sure they do.
Okay.
Everything's out there.
But is this chemical exfoliator, is this something that you do every night or no?
So you still want to stick to the 2 to 3 times a week.
That's right, you said that.
It depends on the exfoliator too. It's, you can read the directions. Some of them will say you can do it every night. Some of them will say once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. Generally speaking, though, you don't want to exfoliate every single day because it's just, again, it's too much of a good thing, and it messes with the skin texture. It can mess with the acid mantle that's on the surface, and in turn make you drier or more oily. So that's why just that 2 to 3 times a week is just a good rule to live by.
All right, now what about cleansers? Some people spend a lot of money on cleansers. Some people do not. I guess it depends on what is working for you. And some people don't spend a lot of money on it because it's like, well, it's just going to clean my face. I'm going to save my money for the products that then are going to hopefully help in other areas.
Yeah.
All right, so talk about that. What should we be doing for cleanser?
I would agree. I sort of feel like cleanser is the thing. You do rinse it off. And, I have high-end ones that I like, and I have budget ones that I like.
Yeah.
But it is the thing, if you were going to go more budget-friendly with it, I would maybe go budget-friendly with your cleanser and then spend your money on the things you actually leave on your skin, like your serums, if you're using that, your, a retinol, which I think we got into that a little bit later, or your moisturizer, because you actually do leave that on your skin.
Okay, that is a great rule of thumb. If it's not going to stay on your face, you can go budget. Also, too, I think that sometimes the budget stuff will work. You just got to use it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
People aren't using their stuff.
No matter what you're doing, whether if you got it from Walmart or Sephora or your derm, you have to be consistent.
Right, and use it. And then a lot of times people, if they spend a lot of money on this little tub of something, then it's like, oh, my precious little thing. I don't want to use it. I want to use it once a month so that it lasts.
I do that sometimes. Guilty.
I will do that with palettes. That I don't even want you to go up in my makeup drawer. It's beautiful, but like ones that they're just so pretty.
Don't want to touch it.
Yeah, and I look at it and I'm like, hello, pretty makeup. And then I'll reach for my crappy, beat up, been everywhere in my makeup bag, drugstore eyeshadow.
Well, I think a point
so
to bring
dumb.
to that too.
It's like eat the cake, drink the wine,
and I'm totally
use
guilty
the palette.
of this too. But I think something to bring to that. Just know that. Especially with skincare, it's a little bit more finicky than makeup. But skincare, it does have an expiration date. So,
that's true.
I mean, you might have had it for a year, but it's not doing anything anymore.
Right, right. So use it. Okay. we're bombarded by ingredients all the time. And you mentioned retinol. We were on a plane once, and now it escapes me where we were going or what we were doing, but I was reading just some magazine, and there was a chart of all this stuff that you should be using on your face, or like different things, and this is the benefit of them. And I showed it to you, and I was like, look at this. This is what frustrates me, because am I going to like every day, like every morning and every night, slather all this stuff on my face? And you had an excellent example, like an excellent analogy. Do you remember what you told me?
I did. So it's like superfoods. And I completely agree, Mel. I think that it is I almost feel the same way about the food industry. They're like, oh, you need to eat this
blueberry sweet potatoes,
maca root every day for your brain to be healthy. And you're like, I don't know.
Or those seeds, flax seeds.
Yeah.
You know,
so
the next thing you know, you're like trying to eat every superfood and sprinkle them with flaxseed with every meal.
Like you put a smoothie in that has everything in the health food section of your grocery store, and you're like just hoping that it's going to be the elixir that makes you live forever. So
that's a great way to look at it, because I strive to eat superfoods, but not at every meal.
Right.
Like I space them out and
just to think, like if you were going to eat all those superfoods at once, and this ties back to your skin, your body can only absorb so much of that. You want to do it, have maybe flax seeds a couple times a week, and then have your blueberries a couple times a week. It's the same thing with skincare.
Okay.
So when you read about a new ingredient or you see these ingredients out there, I agree. I think that it can be really overwhelming, but just know you insert those things here and there. Use your retinol a couple times a week. Use your, chemical exfoliant a couple times a week, and do that. And then,
another thing, we talked about this, earlier, a lot of times people will use it once or twice and say, this doesn't work.
So I always compare that. I like to compare it to, again, a healthy diet and exercise.
Yeah.
You can eat an apple and work out one day, maybe 2 days.
Yeah. And then fall off the wagon.
Yeah, if
no
you
wonder
don't
it's not
stick
working,
with it, it's not going to do much. It ties back to what we were talking about before. You have to be consistent with it to see results.
Okay, so let's go over some of these super ingredients that was on the chart that frustrated me so. Retinol. You mentioned retinol. What does that do?
Retinol is I would say the gold standard when it comes to anti-aging skincare. Basically what it does is it speeds up cell turnover. It also helps with acne too.
Yes.
So really good for those of us who are really lucky and we're getting to that point in life where we are struggling with wrinkles and acne still.
Wasn't that fun?
It's so fun.
That was my 30s too.
Yeah. So, but retinol makes a huge difference, and you want to use that a couple times a week.
And you can, that comes in prescription form, but it also comes in products that you can buy.
Over the counter.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Not everyone, and I think that there is this thing that prescription's always better. I've used prescription before, and it dried the heck out of my skin.
Yeah.
I actually prefer my over-the-counter one.
I do too. I've used the prescription one before, and you have to be very careful about how you apply it. And, at first you're all gung-ho and you're slathering it on there every day, and then you're like, I'm burning my face off.
Yeah.
And it's peeling. Check it out.
I'd rather wrinkles.
Right, because this looks terrible. And so every other day with some sort of retinol product. One thing I will mention, and I I don't even know if you know this, but I'm sure your grandma knows about this magazine. It's called Good Housekeeping. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah.
Okay. I love it.
I've seen it at the doctor's office now.
Yeah. So they have this awesome Good Housekeeping seal of approval. Mm-hmm. And that is where I have gotten ideas for a lot of quote unquote drugstore brands that I'm like, I'm going to try that because it's only, $12 and I'm going to try it.
I do the same thing.
And they do not give this Good Housekeeping seal to things that do not work. And so that's going to be my very practical makeup tip.
It's for Good Housekeeping.
It is.
I mean, come on,
sad,
isn't it? Allure or a beauty magazine, Vogue.
No. Do not be lured by Cosmo and Glamour. They do not know what's up. Good Housekeeping does. Because they put it through these rigorous tests. Like if they're going to give the Good Housekeeping seal of approval, that product works.
Well,
and it's true.
I'm going to have to
You want to buy a vacuum? Look for Good Housekeeping seal of approval. You want a moisturizer with retinol? Look at the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. You will not be led astray.
Well, good to know.
Well, they just have the money behind it, and the lab tests it, and they also get this huge sample group. And that's how they figure this stuff out. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay. So retinol, cell turnover, anti-aging. Cool. This next thing I can't even pronounce.
Hyaluronic.
What?
Hyaluronic.
It's almost like Sauvignon Blanc. I say it really quickly, hoping the waiter knows what I'm talking about because I can't pronounce it. Hyaluronic.
Yeah.
That's it.
But just hyaluronic.
Hyaluronic.
There you go.
The
We
A
can
is
make it
silent.
easy. I don't know. And maybe that's just how we say in the Midwest, but I just say hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid is in a lot of skincare now. You may have seen that ingredient pop up. It sounds like it's scary. It's not a scary acid. All it does is bind moisture to skin. So it's something that... think of a moisturizer as something that helps create moisture to put into your skin, and hyaluronic acid helps keep the moisture that's already in your skin, helps it stay put.
Stay in there. Okay. And this is delivered through they put this in products.
Yeah. Serums are a product that are thinner than moisturizers.
So it goes on first.
So it can go on underneath, or they're in moisturizers too. Hyaluronic's in a lot of things.
Do you use a serum at night?
Always.
Even during the day?
Yeah.
Before you, okay.
Yeah, always. I mean, I don't want to say you have to use a serum, but ladies, if you're over 28, you should be using a serum.
Using a serum.
And a night cream. Just putting that out there.
A note to go to goodhousekeeping.com to find their favorite serum. Okay. Vitamin C. What's that for skin?
Think of vitamin C as a BLT. It brightens, lightens, and it tightens.
Oh.
It's the easiest thing to remember.
I got all excited. I thought it was bacon, lettuce, and tomato.
Not that exciting, but...
Well, fine. It brightens, lightens, and did you say tightens? Does it? Ooh.
Yep.
Okay. And how is this super thing distributed? Like, you're not going to go and buy vitamin. You're not going to slather oranges and lemons on your face.
No, please don't. Yeah, the citrus in there would be really bad for your acid mantle on your skin. So you can do it in a lot of ways. Again, it's in a lot of moisturizers. Personally, I prefer mine in a serum form.
Okay.
And I use it during the day because it helps protect against free radicals in the air.
What's a free radical?
Free radicals are what... hard to explain.
Is it like the enemy of your skin?
Kind of. There's like a scientific behind it where the missing atom on your skin, like
that clings to
cells,
that.
Yeah, and then it attacks the cells, and so your two biggest enemies for aging is UV rays and free radicals.
Okay.
So that's why vitamin C helps.
Okay. All right. Peptides, what's that?
Peptides, easy to remember, they add pep to your skin. So if you were going to like touch your skin and make it bounce, that's your collagen production. So peptides add pep and they help with collagen.
Okay. And so like already, like my mind is still spinning again. Like, ooh, I need to go do this. I need to go do that. Maybe just add these into the routine a little bit at a time. Collagen, probably I'm at the age where, I could probably start worrying a little bit about some collagen here and there. So that would be something on my list.
Well, and I think too, the thing to remember about this, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is if you wonder if there's a product that does that or has it in it, there probably does. So there are products that exist that have peptides and vitamin C in it.
Gotcha.
Or they have, alpha hydroxy acids and retinol in it or whatnot.
Right.
So it's not like you need to do 7 different steps.
There's products that have
there's products they know
combos in it. And also vitamin C, that might be something too that at one point in time, remember I had that huge thing on my forehead and it was from what is it? It's pregnancy mask, but
melasma?
Yes. And vitamin C would help fade it.
Yep.
But again, I don't think I used that. Maybe it was a combination product, hydroquinone.
Hydroquinone.
Okay, so that helped too. Again, I had to use it for sure. But maybe you're not having, people aren't having problems with their skin that these super ingredients would help. Like, don't feel like if you're not having an issue that you really, need it. Maybe somebody in their teens, they don't need retinol yet.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, let's just be happy if they cleanse and moisturize,
Right.
you know?
Right. And this is a lot of this is considered quote unquote anti-aging. Shoot, I was probably reading Good Housekeeping or Family Circle or whatever, one of my old lady magazines. And so
Hey.
probably all of these super ingredients.
These are all the good ones.
Okay.
Though. These are all the main ones.
Okay. Salicylic acid. What do we use that for?
Salicylic, think of it as like a roto-rooter for your pores. So it's something that really helps exfoliate, helps clean out pores, and it's better if you have more oily or acneic skin.
So if I don't have oily skin, salicylic acid is not necessarily for me?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah, I can kind of dry it out. It doesn't mean you can't use it. It's just not going to be the
I don't
best
need it.
thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Salicylic acid, Roto-Rooter. I like it. I've misspelled it. Benoyl peroxide. Benzoyl peroxide.
Yeah, benzoyl peroxide is something that it helps. It's mainly for acneic or oily skin.
Blackheads. Or no, salicylic acid is probably more for blackheads. Okay.
Both. Salicylic acid helps dissolve skin that's on the surface. And that sounds scary, but anything that you buy over the counter, it's not going to like burn your skin off, I promise.
Right.
Where what benzoyl peroxide does, I'm going to get a little scientific here, but the reason why you see that in a lot of spot treatments is that when you put it on something, it actually inserts oxygen into the clogged pore.
Okay.
And when oxygen touches, or when it gets to the bacteria that's in there, it kills it.
Oh.
So that's where the oxide comes from.
Gotcha.
So it, kind of dries the skin out a little bit, puts the oxygen in there, and it kills the bacteria that's inside. So, personally, I only use it as a spot treatment because I'm not really acneic. I just get, a few here and there.
Right.
But I know a lot of teenagers and whatnot, there'll be benzoyl peroxide treatments that their derm will put them on that will work for them, but just know it's going to dry your skin out.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yep. Okay. The last one, alpha hydroxy acid. What is that?
So that's your AHA, alpha hydroxy acid, and that's going to be your exfoliator that helps with more fine lines and wrinkles. And again, glycolic and lactic are your most common ones, but just think as a good rule of thumb, salicylic is better for oily and acne,
Right.
and glycolic and lactic are better for anti-aging and wrinkles.
Okay. All right. And again, all of those things you can find through different products.
Yeah.
Combination of products.
Yeah.
Don't use it if you don't need it, but if you feel like you want to try it, stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only way you're going to see the results. So anti-aging, you said that's a huge buzzword.
Mm-hmm.
Is it true? Or do we just slather on sunscreen and hope for the best? I mean, can we reverse damage? With some of this stuff you just talked about?
Yes, absolutely, you can.
But without fillers and without shooting stuff into your skin, you can topically put stuff on it and it will make a difference.
So again, think of it as preventative. So I just always like to tie it back to having a healthy diet. Mm-hmm. And I was actually thinking about this last night, and it just made me think. I remember when I was in my early 20s, I remember a lot of girls telling me, in our early 20s, especially back then, we didn't really care much about skincare. Like, we just kind of found whatever Mary Kay product or whatever,
Right.
my mom was using and used that. But we're like, well, I'm not really going to take care of my skin. I'm just going to get Botox when I'm older. Yeah. And I know now that I'm older, I'm like, God, why?
Start
Why?
saving now.
Yeah.
21-year-old.
But so I mean, to answer your question in a couple parts, the earlier you start, the better off you're going to be. So just know, again, that basic skincare routine, it really is important to start as early as possible, even as teens, because that's your best bet.
Right.
Now,
but it's never too late to start.
Exactly.
For sure.
It's never too late. And then as far, as people that, I didn't probably start taking care of my skin until my mid-20s. And there was already some damage there from tanning and whatnot. And then, people that even start taking care of their skin later in life. Think of your skincare, again, it's your healthy diet. It's what's going to help you maintain. And then you just have to be realistic with it. I've worked in the cosmetics industry for a long time, and I get a lot of women, and I have them too, the 11s, your forehead lines. Yes. And they're like, what can I do to get rid of that? And I'm like,
Botox.
Filler.
Yeah.
like a product will help maintain that.
Yes.
A product can help reduce the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles and pores. Is it going to make you look like, Kim Kardashian? That's just the first person that came to mind.
Right. Everyone's saying, God, I hope not.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, isn't going to make you look 20 years younger.
Right.
Just using, XYZ. No.
Topical stuff. No, you're right.
You do need to, just depending on what results you want to get, but it is still important that you do use it and that you use your SPF because it's your insurance.
That's probably the best thing out there that you like. If you spend money on nothing else, and you don't even need to spend a ton of money, but SPF is key, and probably not just the stuff that's in your foundation. Like a lot of them come with SPF. That's probably not enough from what I've read, from what Good Housekeeping tells me.
That they are the gold standard when it comes to the beauty industry. It's where we all go.
Okay, makeup trends. What do you want to see go away? What are you like? Please stop doing this. Like, I can't wait for this minute to be up because it's popular now. And
I would say I feel like it's already kind of starting to go away. But the past couple years, there's been this trend of a lot of girls, especially young girls, thinking that they all need to look the same. And again, I've worked at the cosmetics industry, and I've seen young girls that come in who have the most beautiful skin that I've ever seen, skin that I would die for now. Right. And they want the most full coverage foundation, and they would need a highlight and contour, and they need, their false lashes and their eyeshadow. And there is nothing wrong with that.
Right.
I'm not saying that. It's makeup. Play with it. Do what you want. But my problem is that girls growing up thinking that's what
that
people look like.
That you need to contour.
Yeah.
And that you need...
This is what, 16-year-old girls wear is we wear this much makeup. And again, do it if it's fun for you. But I just want girls growing up now that you don't need that. You don't need that to feel pretty.
They would just accentuate their own features instead of trying to morph it into
everyone looking the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's kind of what's happened over the years with this, with YouTube being more popular and influencers and whatnot.
We were going to talk about that. Another fantastic publication. Actually, it's Omni Media that I absolutely love. Martha Stewart. Now, I will say this. You want a recipe or you need to know if a pot's good. Good housekeeping, yeah, great, always great. But Martha's your girl there.
Martha's got your back.
Yard work, she'll let you know if a pair of clippers is worth your money or whatever. But she had an issue. She and some YouTubers were upset with her and bloggers because she was like, why would you get your information from these bloggers and YouTubers? She's backed by this, all these test kitchens and labs and that kind of stuff. Like she's like the real deal. And she's like, you don't know their background and they don't put it through the same stringent tests that, okay. So what I like about getting information from you is you studied, you went to school for this, for skincare, and you went to school for makeup artistry, and not only the schooling part for the artistry, but you've done things on your own, like enrolling in artist classes to help you with, your makeup artistry, and you always continue to learn. I think some of these YouTubers and bloggers that are just talking about makeup and skincare, I think that's dangerous. So a little bit, like first I slather on the Crisco and then I, you know what I mean? Like,
well, and anyone who is in, I guess I put it in quotes, like the industry right now, the makeup industry right now, we know about this big thing that's happened over the past couple of weeks of influencers, which they're technically called influencers. They don't call them makeup artists, but those makeup artists that have millions of followers on YouTube. Yeah. Where they've sort of got exposed for nothing that was really that surprising for me, but they've got it exposed for being not completely transparent on when they're sponsored or not. Right, yeah. And so there's been this big thing, and we won't get into that.
I would like it duly noted that I do not receive any money from Good Housekeeping, nor Martha.
But I think that I completely agree with Martha, though, and that's exactly how I feel about the industry. I almost feel like I'm an old fart because, there is definitely a huge difference between an influencer and a makeup artist. Ooh. And I don't have anything against either one. I don't want this to come off of like, oh, influencers, they're doing this, but just know. To go back to Martha's point, there is a difference. Influencers know how to create viral content, and they know how to do makeup on their own face.
On their own face.
And that's great. And I watch some of them sometimes, and I'm like, oh, that looks cool.
Right.
That looks
That
cute.
looks pretty. Mm-hmm.
A makeup artist is someone who, I don't want to say this sounds really snarky, but a working makeup artist, like, we don't have time to do YouTube because I'm doing makeup.
Yes.
And that's not, there are makeup artists on YouTube. So I don't want to say that. There are
Right.
makeup artists who like do the cover of Vogue, and
Sure.
they're still doing YouTube. So that's a bold statement to make. But I mean, generally working makeup artists, we are skilled to look at other people's faces and look and see what to enhance and what we want to look at.
Right. Like you would never tell somebody sight unseen, use this and then curve it up this way because you don't know their eye shape.
It's not a paint by number.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, just to answer your question, that I think YouTube is great. Just know that there is a difference between an influencer and a makeup artist.
And you'd be better off if you want to learn some tips and techniques to waltz into a makeup store that offers that. I know Sephora offers classes, and then also, people will do one-on-one. Makeup artists will do one-on-one with you and teach you what's good for your face. All right, what right now is an absolute waste of time or money, do you think, in the makeup world? Is there anything?
Any makeup made in China.
Okay.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of those big palettes. I won't name brands, but those big palettes that you can get for $23 and they have 50 eyeshadows. It's a great deal. Don't do it. It's dangerous. They're not very good. And
God knows what's in them.
Yeah. You don't know what's in them. The cosmetics in China are not regulated the same way they are here.
Okay.
They're cheap for a reason.
Sure.
So I'm not saying spend $100, but just if it's made in China, stay away from it.
Stay away from it. Okay. What is new in the makeup skincare world that you're like, yes, finally? Is there anything that, you're like, thank God this is here?
Yeah. This goes back to what we were talking about earlier about everyone looking the same.
Gotcha.
What I found is refreshing, and what I've noticed when I'm watching the YouTubes, and I see clients come in and talk, is that people are kind of stepping away a little bit more, and this more clean beauty look is coming back, and that just makes my heart so happy because that's my forte. I love clean beauty, and I think it's really beautiful, and I think there's something to be said knowing how to just use a few products.
Yes. To accentuate what you have. And everybody has good features.
Yep. Absolutely.
And sometimes I think when they try to correct it, they are uncorrecting it.
Yeah.
And it looks worse than if they would just embrace.
Yeah.
And I like that. That's great. Okay, really quickly. One thing I wanted to bring up, because some of this stuff I didn't know until you and some other makeup freaks came into my life. Primer. Some people still aren't using it. Like in my age group, I think sometimes people don't know that it's there. Use primer.
Primer for the face or the eye, or either one?
Both. And they're different.
So, primer for the eye I definitely would say is a must-have, especially for girls on game day, because your makeup, it ain't gonna last. Eyes tend to get oily and it'll break it down. So I definitely would say eye primer is a must-have. Face primer, I would say, is a nice-to-have. It just depends on what you're trying to address.
And it kind of probably depends on your foundation, too. Yeah.
Like, if you have, you don't really have any skin issues, you don't really have pores, your foundation wears fine without it with just a moisturizer.
Yeah.
It's okay.
But 98% of the people aren't that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I personally, I don't wear primer every day, but it depends on my foundation, to your point. Sometimes I'm super oily. Sometimes I have to wear a mattifying one to help keep that under control. So I would say it's a nice to have, not a must have, but it does make a difference depending on what you're trying to address.
It makes a difference in how that foundation is going to go on. Basically, this is just rapid fire things that I've learned from you that I just want everybody to know. Foundation, full coverage is it was a game changer for me because my foundation it was the stuff I was using before did not cover. Get it matched though, for sure.
Yeah.
Concealer. I think a lot of people don't know you put that on last.
So with concealer, think foundation is meant to even out your skin and your concealer is meant to cover. Whether if you do foundation or concealer first or second, this is a question that I get a lot.
I know.
There's not a right or wrong way. There really isn't. Live your life. It doesn't matter. It's just makeup. However, I recommend doing it, and how I've always done it professionally and on myself, is I do it second, because then you can see what your foundation covers up.
Yes.
And then you're not going to use as much product.
Absolutely. Okay. Blush. Put it on the apples or whatever these are called of your cheeks. Yep. Don't go for, it was really huge in the 80s, like that hollow part.
It just depends on what you're doing. It really does.
Like if you're doing an 80s routine, an homage to Dynasty,
I don't know.
Put it here.
It's something. It's called draping, and it just depends. I mean, but I would say for a classic game day look, for sure, I agree. You want to keep it on the apple of the cheek and blend up towards the top of the ear.
Well, but then also too, I think that is more flattering for people just hanging out, going to dinner, going to the store, going to whatever.
Yeah, because it's where you naturally flush, right? For sure.
Bronzer, if you're going to use it, blend it and do the 3 on the side of your face. Isn't that what you told me?
Yeah. So bronzer, again, a nice to have. I love bronzer. I usually don't leave the house without it. But what bronzer can do is slightly sculpt the face and give you more of a sun-kissed look. And when you apply it, you just want to use a nice fluffy brush and put it in a 3. Just think across the forehead to the temple, across the cheekbone, and then the jawline and neck.
Okay. Highlighter. I've come to the conclusion that is best left to the professionals. I do not do a good job with that.
Yeah. So there is a difference between highlight and luminize, which this isn't like a technical test or anything, but just know highlight can refer to using something 1 to 2 shades lighter than your skin and putting that, think the center of the face, the bridge of your nose, your forehead and your chin, and then luminize. And that might be, I don't know if that's what you're referring to, but that's where you use something shimmery.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that the one where you're like,
I'm like, scary? Yeah, I don't know about that and where I would put that.
There's definitely this trend right now where, girls want to look like a glazed donut. And I mean, I'm not mad about it. It's cool if that's what you want to do. But just know that luminizer, it's a nice to have, and you want to be strategic of where you place it. You don't want to go crazy because naturally we don't have sparkly cheekbones, so.
Okay. Eyeshadow, you've taught me you can use it as a liner. I think that's fantastic. Another thing you've taught me is on the lid is like a neutral crease, darker, and then the lightest.
The lighter one at the brow bone?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just to add one more thing to that, when talking about neutrals refer to a lot of things like your blacks and browns. If you are more of a warm skin tone, you do want to opt for a warmer palette. So just think those warmer browns, those more kind of orangey colors. And if you're a cooler skin tone, which tends to be my fair girls,
right?
If you offer something a little bit cooler, more taupey,
oh yeah,
it's a little bit
gorgeous.
more flattering because it doesn't pull orangey on you.
Gotcha. Eyeliner. Never, ever, ever use liquid liner on the lower.
Yes.
I've learned that from you. Not that I was doing that in the past, but you can line the bottom with a pencil. Don't be afraid to get into the water line. I always thought that was gross. And then also tight line is that thing you do where you do the...
So tight line's what you do whenever you go up underneath the top lash line, and it looks scary, and it might feel a little scary, but it makes a huge difference.
It does. It outlines that
every day.
Yes, I do. Well, not today or yesterday or the last time you saw me. I'm the only one that had no makeup on, but it was a rough week. But tight lining, I'm a huge fan of it now. And then the last thing, we already mentioned it too, eyebrows. Fill them in.
Yeah. Okay. And fill in your eyebrows. And what we talked about before, it's like find the medium. Don't go too crazy with it, because then you look a little bit like a caveman. But yeah,
if that's the look you're going for in a routine, I would love to see it.
That would be great.
Wouldn't that be great?
A good idea.
Yeah, they could dress like pebbles, and that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and I would opt for just another tip that I would offer is opt for a pomade as opposed to a pencil or powder for game day. Not saying that you have to do it, but pomades do tend to last longer. Okay.
All right, well, we're going to wrap it up. Is there anything that we have missed that people need to know about
I don't know.
skincare?
Is anyone still listening after this makeup talk for an hour? I don't know, but
I know we have 7 listeners, one of which was my dad. And I bet he's like, well, forget it. I'm not So to all 6 of you still listening,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much, Kayla.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And thank you so much you are never afraid to spread your knowledge. And I love how you got into this in the spirit of service and helping people.
Oh,
and I think people need to know that because makeup, beauty, all of that, it's like a universal language for us women and for some guys now too, which that's cool. We didn't even talk about that. Should male performers on dance teams, should they wear makeup? I'm so glad.
But not as, depending... if they
it depends on them.
If they want to wear as much as the girls, go for it.
Right.
But if not,
that's kind of what people think about the use of palms too.
Yeah.
Some people really like, they shouldn't make that boy use palms. Well, what if he wanted to?
Right. Like,
let him do.
It's your team. Let them live their life. Like,
yeah. Let them do that. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks.
So, did you take notes? Are you off to the drugstore or beauty retailer right now as I speak? Getting ready to procure all kinds of peptides? Funny story, as soon as Kayla left, I went out to check the mail, and sitting in my mailbox was the newest issue of my beloved Good Housekeeping. And inside that issue was a review on some chemical exfoliants, just like what Kayla talked about. Too funny. You can find more info about the podcast and Larkspur services at larkspurdance.com. And we'd love to hear from you. Don't hesitate to reach out. You can follow us on social media too. We've got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We will follow back. And if you got anything out of today's podcast, I hope you picked up on the fact that you need to take care of you, no matter what that looks like. That's what it's about. You can't pour from an empty pitcher, and people in your life need you. And when you feel better, you do better. Thanks so much for joining us.